Now in this video we will recap the story of Jenny and her father Jeff. We start out with Jenny having a blast calling up evil spirits with her adorable puppets. She seems to have a vivid imagination, this girl. That is probably because her dad is a cartoon artist, talented in drawing creepy puppets and the likes. While Jenny is playing in the attic, her father Jeff is having a good time with the babysitter Samantha. A loud bang sounds from above, but the two adults don't seem to care. However, shortly after, another bang halts down. Maggie, her mother and Jeff's wife, just got home and heard the noise as well. She storms up to have a look, and Jeff, for once too, gets up and seems to suddenly care. He seems to be a little bit a lazy dude. Now in the next scene we can see that the relationship between Jeff and Maggie isn't a healthy one. They argue, blame each other and really go all out. All in front of the poor little girl. She is seemingly annoyed by her parents fighting, and who wouldn't really, right? Why in front of the kid? Now Maggie drives her daughter to the hospital and leaves Jeff back. We get to know that she seems to be a very successful employee, while Jeff is an unemployed artist that hasn't seen a job in over 3 years. I suppose her frustration can be understood. On the other hand, we hear that she seems to work almost every day and barely gets to see her daughter. It is clear that both of them are very dissatisfied with each other, and their daughter is the victim of the feud. A few days pass and we cut to a divorce hearing in front of a family court. Looks like these problems weren't new ones, huh? Now Maggie demands sole custody of their daughter, which by all means seems to be a little bit harsh. Jeff hasn't got a job and seems to be irresponsible, but he shows a great deal of heart and empathy with his daughter. However, that doesn't stop Maggie and her father to crush down on Jeff in this hearing. An intense argument breaks out and unfortunately can be heard by Jenny sitting outside. Once again, a stupid and unnecessary move by the adults here. Now after coming home, Jeff does what every insecure dude would do in his position. Wallowing in self-pity, watching old family videos while at the same time stuffing down junk food. We can see this guy is not a dangerous man. The next day, Jenny and her dad go for some lunch at the local cafe. Now we can see how much joy she receives from her dad's talent as a cartoon artist. He seems to love her very much, but seems to be easily distracted. When he meets an old friend who he went to school with, he isn't able to balance between him and his daughter, which causes her to disappear annoyed. On the other hand, the guy that he meets runs a comic business and invites him to discuss the possibilities of an inking job. Good job, Jeff. Way to go, in my opinion. Now at the same time though, his soon-to-be ex-wife calls and causes a scene because he went out with her daughter, as she puts it. That's shameless if you ask me, but understandable if he was a dangerous guy. But this guy's threat level isn't over the one of a potato, okay? And I'm not talking about a hot one here. He has genuinely a good heart. So, both argue back and forth until this happens. Now the mother is gone and we find ourselves back at the funeral service at their home. The mood is generically dimmed until Jenny decides to paint the walls with tomato juice. I guess she's an artist as well. Her father tries to stop her but looks more like a clueless teenager facing his accident. Perhaps his late ex-wife had a point. This weird scene is followed by another one. Jeff pulls a very bad speech while those around him fake their interest in what he has to say. At the same time, the painting in the back magically catches fire, but instead of doing something against it, he just stares at it. Luckily, Samantha the babysitter comes for help. Now, this doesn't seem like a natural distortion, does it? Looks like the haunting is about to start. The guests have left and Jenny is already sleeping, and Jeff goes for a nap as well. He is exhausted. But then he hears a sound and wakes up. As he leaves the room to check, he witnesses the door to the attic opening itself up. Being worried about his daughter, he decides to have a look. But before he arrives, a creepy white-black stripped clown climbs through it. Now Jeff is freaked out. He backs off, falls onto his butt, and freezes in terror. The interesting thing? It is one of his drawings. Was it just a dream? Well, we will find out. The next day, two things happen. Maggie's father pays our house a visit. He is determined to take away Jenny because apparently it was his daughter's last wish before she died. Which is ridiculous as he has no connection whatsoever with little Jenny. It seems like he only wants her because that's what his now deceased daughter wanted. Jeff on the other hand for once is determined to not back down. Good for him. Knowing he has to change to stand a chance against his ex-wife's rich father, he makes his way to the comic book business owner and proposes himself as a new employee. Connor, the owner of the business, agrees, and Jeff, as of now, is back in the game. At home, he starts putting down some sketches. He is completely immersed until he loses control and falls into a trance state. He rapidly scribbles a dark figure over his sketches. When he awakes from it, he realizes that something isn't right. But before he could pick up the phone and call his local therapist, his daughter comes in and tells him about the monster in her room. Great timing. In her room, she comes clean. She tells him that she's very sad and misses her mom. To which Jeff replies this.
Yeah, I'm sad too. But you know what? It's okay to be sad, honey.
That's a beautiful sentence. Jeff might be a lazy dreamer, but he sure carries his heart in the right place. Now when he has his new job meeting, he hands out his sketches. But in between them, the black scribble he has made during trance is still there. He forgot to take it out, but his new boss completely falls in love with it. To understand that, you must know that his new boss is a strange guy that is possessed with the idea of a comic book about darkness itself, and the drawing Jeff has made is exactly what he wants. Be it as it is, it doesn't matter. Jeff is happy that he has found a new job. It isn't what he dreamt of, but it is enough to take care of his daughter for the time being. That is, apart from the ghosts that are haunting his home. Despite all the weird occurrences in the past few days, Jeff doesn't seem to understand what's really happening. But the weird dreams, the strange sounds, and those states in which he loses complete control indicate that something bad is going on. Whether it is schizophrenia or being haunted, I think both require action. That is why during one of the next days, he fixates a camera in the corner of Jenny's room. If there are strange things happening, then we must be able to capture it. Before the next night creeps in though, Jeff's boss comes in to check his progress. The conversation drifts into spirits and ghosts. Jeff is obviously concerned about the strange happenings at home, but he has a hard time believing ghosts are real. Before going home though, he meets Samantha and his daughter in the park. If you ask me, the babysitter so far has been the strangest thing in this movie, and this,
everybody knows men just get better with age.
Proves it once again. She is constantly hitting on him. It is very obvious, but Jeff doesn't seem to be aware of it until they arrive at home, because there, Samantha casually pours in 2 drinks as if this was her house. Then she walks over to Jeff, hands him a drink, and leans forward to kiss him. He backs away. Embarrassed, she leaves. In my book, however, she should have been fired, but Jeff seems to be attracted to her, and I will explain what I mean with that shortly. But first, let's have a look what the camera has caught during the following night. After Samantha has left, Jeff went back to his study to finish off some work, but at the same time, he's streaming live footage of the camera in Jenny's room. When the image suddenly starts to flicker, a shadowy figure appears in a corner of the room. He rushes upstairs. Arriving in the room, Jenny isn't there, but the window is open. The worst case goes through his mind until something under a blanket is creeping up behind him.
Boo!
I guess this time it was only his daughter, but it becomes increasingly clear that something isn't right. Personally, the shadowy figure from before wouldn't let me be in peace. I would not spend the night in here. However, what is even scarier than that is that the next morning, Jeff calls over Samantha to take care of his daughter again. This is strange. This woman obviously wants more from you than you can give her. In my book, keeping her around isn't a good idea. It is almost as if Jeff is lonely and that she's more like a caretaker to him than Jenny. Now when Samantha too hears a loud noise banging from upstairs, she goes to have a look. Yeah, having a small girl standing in an oversized t-shirt on top of a menacing staircase leading into darkness is not gonna happen. Now Samantha thinks likewise, however that doesn't stop the spirit from creeping her out. When Jeff comes home, he finds her traumatized sitting on the stairs. The conversation they have is really weird, but at this point we should stop questioning it. Basically, Samantha asks Jeff to binge watch some movies downstairs and get high together. Of course, he rejects her, to which she replies this.
Man, you used to be fun.
But Jeff goes back to continue his work as if nothing happened. However, all his drawings are screwed up. Desperately, he confronts Jenny to ask her why she did that, but she denies being the culprit. The conversation shifts into a talk about the deceased mother again. She tells him, for instance, that her mom keeps visiting her and that she keeps telling her that it was him who killed her, which, as we all know, is a complete lie. Now, the next day, Jeff visits his boss Ellen to explain the situation about the screwed up inkings. He understands and gives him extra days to finish off the job. He even goes out of his way and inquires about what exactly happened. And again, they start talking about spirits and ghosts, but this time, Ellen is unusually serious in his tone. When he finds out that Jeff and Maggie used to often fight before she passed away, and Dad always in front of Jenny herself, he concludes that Jenny must be traumatized and suffer from PTSD. But he also points out that this isn't just trauma. You see, Jenny has been drawing the same dark figure like Jeff has in a state of trance, but he has never shown any of these sketches to his daughter, so how could she draw the exact same thing? This leads Ellen to conclude that the grudge spirit of Maggie is haunting both of them, with the goal of driving a wedge between them. Now Jeff, who was at first skeptic about this whole idea, starts to understand. He then asks Ellen what he should do, and he replies this.
You need to talk to her. You need to speak to your wife before something very bad happens.
Ellen walks over to his drawer, opens it up, takes out the wooden ornament box and hands it over to Jeff. Now this isn't some supernatural type of salt, ladies and gentlemen. Nope. In 2021, we do not fight spirits with salt and medallions. In 2021, we fight spirits with ayahuasca. You heard that right. What he gives Jeff is a herbal drink containing the psychedelic and clarifies that he, Jeff, needs to connect with Maggie and finish off their ongoing feud. I might add here that ayahuasca is commonly known as a bridge to the spirit world. I mean, let's go. Let us enter the void. Now we cut back home, and before we get to the climax, Jenny suffers from an allergic reaction. While Jeff is busy trying to rescue her, the screws of the lamp above Samantha are being unscrewed. It looks like the spirit is about to screw Samantha here. Now the lamp eventually knocks her unconscious, and while Jeff is able to save his daughter, passes out. Because of this incident, the police arrive and investigate what exactly happened. Even though they first suspect Jeff to be an abusive father, they eventually let him be for the time being. At the same time, Maggie's father joins as well. Not that that was necessary, but before he can make a scene, Jeff offers him to take in Jenny for the night and then discuss her future tomorrow. Now he willingly agrees, of course, and after everyone has left, Jeff decides to confront his deceased wife with drinking the brew Ellen has given him before. Now nothing happens at first, but eventually his reality starts to distort. He is confused, but then suddenly he's facing off the dark figure that has been hunting him and his daughter in the weeks before. Before anything meaningful can happen though, he wakes up on the floor as if it was only a dream, which is a common thing after the consumption of this herb. Now he was able to confront Maggie, but it wasn't long enough to come to a solution. But it seems he has gained some confidence during this experience. Because the next day multiple things happen. At the family court, for instance, Jeff is able to convince Maggie's dad about keeping custody, and at the same time decides to move upstate near him. He continues to be a grown-up man for the first time in this movie and negotiates a work-from-home deal with his bosses and is able to keep his job as well. Now that is all great and stuff, of course, but at the same time Maggie's father arrives at the house to pick up Jenny. But before he can get to her, he receives a message from the police saying that they have successfully identified the culprit who killed his daughter. Now before he can alert Jeff though, he is pushed down the staircase. It looks like he was pushed by an invisible force, but would the spirit of his daughter really do something like that? I guess by now it should be clear what is really going on here. As Samantha tried to run off with Jenny, a bright red light starts to glow. The spirit of Maggie is about to join the party. At the same time, Jeff arrives back home and finds his ex-wife's father lying crippled at the stairs. Now he isn't dead fortunately and is able to point at his phone. Samantha rushes down and screams at Jeff to run away. However, before she can continue talking, Jeff opens up the email with the identified culprit and finds out that Samantha was the one who killed his wife. Now it was also her who pushed down grandfather, poisoned Jenny, and likely even destroyed his sketches. Now she starts to freak out. Like a maniac, she tries to talk her way out of it. Her eyes tell that she is the real monster here, until it's over. Then the movie continues with a long overdue confrontation between Maggie and Jeff. They eventually seem to agree with each other, and we get a cheesy but kind of epic looking, but definitely unnecessary slow-mo free fall of daughter and father. And then a cute scene in which both of them plan ahead a brighter future by leaving the past behind. Let me know what you think. I hope you liked this recap. If so, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and why not binge another one? How about that? Peace.